Now, Cloud Canon is a great segue to our next speaker. That speaker is Mike Neumegen, speaking from San Francisco today. He's previously a freelance developer and photographer, but he's now the CEO of Cloud Canon and my boss, but he's pretty cool. Mike has been one of the main driving forces behind JekyllConf, and I know it's been a lot of hard work behind the scenes. I think that makes it even more of a privilege to introduce him today in this speaker session to talk about the journey of building a CMS for Cloud Canon. Mike, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sam. And first out, I just want to thank Sam so much for being the MC for today. If you missed it at the start of the talk, he had to get up at 4 a.m. this morning. So he's an absolute trooper. And to all the other Jekyll speakers as well, like everyone's given up their time. And I think it's just a testament to the Jekyll community that we can just pull something like this together. Yeah, I've really, really enjoyed today so far. So I'm going to try and share my screen here. Let's see. All right. So Sam, can you see my screen there?
You're good to go, mate.
All right. So I want to start off just talking about why we love Jekyll at Cloud Canon. So we use it every day for a lot of our websites, our marketing sites made using Jekyll, and our documentation website. And we love Jekyll because we can build websites so much faster. It just removes all the complexity. We don't need to worry about databases, infrastructure, backend languages. We can just focus on making really good websites. The website's compiled to static files, obviously, which is great because we can host them anywhere. They're super scalable and really secure. And they can be source controlled, which gives us access to the entire history of the website. And it means we can experiment with new ideas on branches, and we can work really well as a team together on collaborating on a Jekyll website. But there's an elephant in the room. If Jekyll is so amazing, then why isn't it the go-to tool for all web developers on every new web project? And we asked ourselves this question, and then we asked you guys, the Jekyll community. And what we found is Jekyll is mostly used in sort of personal projects or projects where there are no other non-technical users who need to update that website. When a non-technical person does need to update the website, they either have to set up Jekyll on their local machine and push and pull changes through Git, or they can edit directly on GitHub, which means they don't need to install Jekyll, but they're still editing source code and there's no live preview. And pros.io is an open source editing interface for Jekyll, which takes a step in the right direction, but there's no way of editing the HTML pages, and it's still really hard to preview the website. Because of these limitations, we've found web developers stick to database-backed CMSs for the majority of projects. Now again, we love Jekyll at Cloud Canon and think there's a huge potential for this tool. So we decided to do our part in making Jekyll more accessible for non-technical users. And today, I'm so excited to announce the official public beta of Cloud Canon's Jekyll integration. The team have been working so hard to get this ready for you guys today, but the result is just awesome. Now you can create websites in a fraction of the time using Jekyll and have non-technical people use Cloud Canon's simple interface to make updates. The sites are fast, secure, extremely scalable, and can be hosted anywhere. So let's just get into a demo. All right, so here is the main dashboard for Cloud Canon, and this just lists all the websites on my account. So these are all the websites I'm going to be demoing today. So let's start off with the JekyllConf website. It opens it up with, I've already uploaded the website, so it just has a file browser with all the files, and we'll just open up the index page. So Cloud Canon is building the website behind the scenes, and it can give me a live preview of the website where I can navigate to different pages and just interact with it like it's a normal website. So I want a non-technical person to be able to update this website. I want them to be able to adjust this main image up here, this heading, and this details section here. And we have a couple of views up the top. At the moment, we're in preview. There's also a visual editor, which I'll show you in a second. We have a code editor and settings. So we'll just jump into the code editor here. And as a developer, I have complete control over what my client or non-technical user can update. And how I give control is I add a class of editable to the elements of the page I want to be updatable. So we had that image. I just add a class of editable. We had the H2. And here. This div already has a class. We can just add another one here. So I'm going to save this in a second, but first I just want to show you up the top left here, there's a green icon. So when I save it, it's going to turn blue to indicate that we're rebuilding the website in the background. And then when it goes green again, it's live. So it only takes a second, but we do need to rebuild the site to give the preview. Okay, so that's all rebuilt now. And you can see it's done nothing visually on the page. That's because there's no styling on those editable classes. However, if I go to the visual editor view, I get these yellow boxes around that editable content. And that indicates to a non-technical user that that's something you can update. So they just come up when I move the mouse. And the context that you put these editables on is important as well. So an image is going to behave differently from an H2, which behaves differently from a div. So I'll just show you how that works. So here we'll swap out the image for something else. So I'll upload an image from my computer. All right, I made a new logo just for this. Just wanted to make it a bit flashier, the website. And so one thing that's going on here is I wouldn't want a non-technical user to come in and upload a huge image and just completely break the website. So I had a width and height on that previous image, and it's going to constrain the new image to that size so it doesn't break anything. I can move the crop around and adjust what that crop looks like. And then when I hit tick, it's going to create that new image with that crop. For the H2, I just get inline editing and just normal sort of WYSIWYG controls. So I can make things bold, I can make this italic, and yeah, all the editing's inline. So it makes it really, really easy. For the div section down here, because it's a div, I get even more controls. So let's just add a new item here. So when is JekyllConf? Right now. And this is a heading, so we'll just make that a heading. Okay, and I've just made all these updates to my website and I haven't had to dive into the code. So up the top here, you can see a URL. So for each website, we generate a testing URL, so you can see the website live on the internet, which I'll show you here. So if you went to, we generated off a animal and a color. So it's flora-orange.cloudvent.net. You can see the live website. And if you don't want this to be public, you can password protect it. But it's just a good way of sharing this website with your team if you're just iterating on something. So now I need to actually share it with the rest of my team. So I'll go into the website settings, into sharing, And I've actually already shared it with my client, but to share it with another person, you just type in their email. And there's two different types of sharing. Either you're sharing it with a developer, and that gives them basically the same access that you have. You get to see the file browser, you can dive into the code, or you share it with a non-technical person, which has more restrictions and just has a lot simpler interface. So this is my non-technical user here, just to demonstrate. They've been shared the JekyllConf website, and I'll just refresh it. Okay, and see there's no file browser. I just click edit content, and it brings up the live preview. And then I can go and make edits on this like normal. Okay, so that's fine for doing basic updates. But what if we want to do something a bit more advanced? So for example, I want this user to be able to trigger on the sponsors section. So they can decide whether they want to show the sponsors, or turn it on and off. So we're going to jump back into the code view. And we're going to write some front matter here. So for those who don't know, front matter is just a little bit of YAML that sits at the top of a data file. In this case, it's the index.html page. And you can reference these variables throughout the page. So I'll create a new variable here called show sponsors. And I'll make it true. And here's the sponsors section here. And now I just write some liquid to say if page.showSponsors is true, then show the section. There we go. And I'll save that, go to the preview. And if I've done it correctly, the sponsor section should still be there because I set the variable to true, which it is, so I've done it right. Okay, we'll go back to our non-technical user. Let's do a refresh here. And I'm going to introduce you to the last editing mode. So we'll go into settings. And what settings is it pulls out the front matter and provides a GUI for updating it. So because it detected a Boolean, it's given me a checkbox. I can just tick off the show sponsors section, hit save, and now when I go to the preview, I have turned off the sponsor section. I'll just show you one more example of this. So if a few people have reached out to me and asked, how does Jekyll deal with SEO? And SEO is just about having good content, which is marked up correctly with the correct headings and other markup, having good page titles, descriptions, things like that. So what I want to do here is give my user the ability to update the page title themselves so they can add some good keywords there. So go back to the file browser, and I'm going to go into the template for the JekyllConf website. And here's the page title. So I'll just add some liquid in here. Let's format this. So we'll say if page.title, if that variable exists, then print out the page title. Otherwise, we can just fall back to the page title that was there. Let's get that formatting right. I think that's correct. Okay, and now we're going to use that variable. We need to actually set it. So we'll set a variable here, page title is Hi Google. And now that's ready to go. Now my client can update the page title. So we'll go back to the non-technical user, jump into settings, and they get this field here for the page title. So I'm going to change that to Hi JekyllConf, and we'll hit save and go to the live website. And you can see the page title there I've configured through a GUI. So there's a lot you can do with front matter with Cloud Canon. I'm going to give you like a more advanced example later, but for now, let's move on to collections. So on the JekyllConf website, all the speakers and the sponsors are populated through collections. So collections are just a really good way of organizing related content. How it works is you have a folder for the collection. So here we have a folder for our speakers, and you just have a markdown file or other data file for each item in that collection. So I'll jump into bins. We don't actually have any markdown in these files. It just has front matter. Okay, we'll go back to our non-technical user. And I'm going to go into this collections tab on the left. And it's listed out all the collections that it's detected on the website. And let's go into bins. And it gives me the front matter editor as well. So I can edit all the front matter, I can change his image, change all his details, and it's really, really easy. But now I want to add a new speaker. So I'll go back to my collections. Go to speakers. I'm going to click add new speaker. And I've been watching Silicon Valley lately, so I'm going to add Richard Hendricks as a last minute addition. And how it works for populating a new file in a collection is it will just copy an existing one to get all the structure right. And then it will try and populate some of the fields. So it's populated name here based on the file name. And then you just switch it out with your own content. So Richard is the CEO, Pied Piper. We'll upload an image for Richard. There we go. New Twitter handle. Start time. Let's go 4 o'clock to 4:45. And he's going to be talking about Jekyll and Pied Piper. Right, and now I'll save that and go to my live website. So there we go. I just added a speaker to the lineup, and it was super, super easy. Just to show you one more example of collections, I will show you our documentation website. So on our documentation website, each one of these sections is a different collection, and then each item in that section is an item in the collection. And it just allows us to manage a lot of content. I mean, this is a lot of content, and if you're just doing that as a static website, it would be very, very overwhelming. Yeah, we can handle it in a really nice contained way. We're actually open sourcing this theme for API docs. It has a couple of cool things like front-end search and like a fixed sidebar. Yeah, so we'll be releasing that in the next week or two. Okay, next up, I'll show you blogging. I'll just keep an eye on the time. So blogging, I'll use, I've got a copy of our marketing site here. And okay, so first I'll just show you the blog on the site. All right, we'll go to blog. There we go. It's just a simple blog. And I want my non-technical user to be able to add and update the blog. So how blogging works in Jekyll is you have an _post directory, which is filled with markdown files. The markdown files are prefixed with a date, which is the published date of a blog post. And then you have a name for the file. There's also an _drafts directory where if you're just drafting a blog post, you can put it in here. And when you build the website, it won't be built into the generated static website unless you have the flags set. Okay, so again, I'll go to my collections tab, and it's detected the blog directories and it's added these 2 tabs here. So I can manage all the content on my blogs. I'm going to just generate a new post here. So I'll make a new post for JekyllConf. Go in. And I get this visual editor. So I can write content in here. It's got all the normal WYSIWYG stuff. So I can bold content. I can add images. Let's add this. And we can do headings, things like that as well. And all this content here is all markdown, but I haven't had to write any markdown. Just to prove that to you, we'll go into the code editor and you can see the generated markdown. So it's just another barrier that a non-technical person doesn't need to learn to be able to interact with these, be able to interact with the Jekyll blog. Of course, you can edit the front matter using the settings view as well. Okay, so I'll save that, which is going to save that markdown file. You can see it's an _drafts /JekyllConf.markdown. And to publish this post, I need to copy that file into the _post directory and add a date to the file name. So I could do that, but we've just got this button here, which is publish post, and that will do that. It will do that all for me. So now when I go back and let's go back to the preview mode and have a look at the blog. There we go, it's published my blog post. All right, next demo. So we've got a restaurant website here. It is a very simple website. It's got some navigation and a big hero image here. It's got a menu, reviews, and a slideshow. What we're really interested in here is the menu. Let's say the chef. I want the chef to be able to update this menu. So using Cloud Canon and Jekyll, there's a few ways you could do this, but just to demonstrate how we work with data, I'll do it with the data file. So back to the file browser, quick explanation of data with Jekyll is you have the _data directory, and inside there you can put CSV files, YAML files, JSON, and possibly some others, I can't remember. But we've got a menu.csv here. And inside that CSV, we just have the dish, the name of the dish, a description of the items, and then the price. And if we go into the index page for the restaurant website, this is where I populate the menu. And so Jekyll has some magic where I can just go site.data.menu. It's really easy. And then iterate over each item in that CSV. And then I'm just pulling out that dish, description, and price. So it's a really nice way of managing content. And I'll show you how a non-technical person can interact with that. So again, we'll go to the collections tab. And it's detected the data directory. And so it's got my menu here. And it gives me a visual view for updating this CSV. So I'm going to add another item. Let's add some pizza. It's got what does it have? Pizza base, It's got some sauce. It's got, I'm going to add cheese. All right. And we'll make it $1 because I love New York pizza. It's pretty extreme. All right. Now I'll save that. And let's go back to the index page. There we go. There's my $1 pizza. Yeah, so it's just another nice way of managing content on a Jekyll website. All right, for my last demo, let me just check the time. Yep, last demo, I'm going to show you my personal portfolio website. So I'm going to build this website, well, import it from scratch. So first I just create a new website. And for the previous websites, I've just been uploading a folder from my computer and then uploading it to Cloud Canon and then editing it in Cloud Canon. But that's not a good way to work as a developer because you want to use the tools on your own computer, not use, I mean, our code editor is good, but if you're doing any sort of heavy development work, you're going to want to use your own tools. So we can also connect a storage provider here. And we've got a few options. So we've got Dropbox, and how that works is if I connect my Dropbox account, it creates a folder for this website in my Dropbox. And then any files I put in that folder are automatically synced to Cloud Canon. And then any changes I make on Cloud Canon are synced back. So I just always have this copy of the production website in my Dropbox, which can be really handy. And it's super fast to deploy websites as well. We also have FTP, but today I'm going to be using GitHub. And how GitHub works is you connect it to an existing repository. We pull in the website files to Cloud Canon. Any changes you make to the repository will also get pulled into Cloud Canon in the future. And then any changes you make on Cloud Canon will get pushed back to GitHub using a commit. So this is a really powerful tool because you can have your whole team working on this repository. You can use your existing environment and tools, plus you can have editing on these Jekyll websites. So I'll connect it up. I just need to pick my repository. And yep, I'll import it. So this is going to take a few seconds to import the files from GitHub. And this should just appear here when it's done. There we go. This is a really simple website. It just has a slideshow in the background, which just iterates over different images. And down the bottom right here, we have a caption for each image. So I just want to be able to, it's kind of a mission dealing with so much content. I just want to be able to edit it really easily. So I'll show you how I've set this up. I'll go into the code editor. And here we have an images array. So for each item in the images array, I have an image path and I have a caption. Then down the bottom of the page, I have, I'll hide that. Down the bottom of the page, I just print out the image path and the caption, and I just put them in an LI. Now using the settings in the front meta editor, it's a complex object, so it's put it in its own tab, there's images, and it's an array. So I can reorder items in this array. I can swap out images, I can change the caption, and if I want to add a new item, I just click add another item. It's going to clone the previous item, and then I can change this image to another one and change the caption. And of course, I can delete the items as well. So this basically allows you to build your own CMS components, which is something that hasn't really been possible before. There's just a huge number of really powerful things you can do with these tools. So the last thing with this website I want to talk about is hosting. So hosting these websites, there's a couple of options. Cloud Canon provides hosting. When I save, it just automatically gets pushed to and it's live. So either you can use that just as a prototyping environment, or you can point a domain at us and use that as your live production environment. Because we're hooking up with, we're connected to GitHub, you can also use GitHub Pages. So use GitHub Pages to do the hosting, and then Cloud Canon to do the editing. And again, because we're connected to GitHub, you can also use a GitHub webhook if you want to push these files to your own server. So how that works is every time you push to GitHub, it'll fire off a webhook, and then you can use a build script to pull that into your own server. All right, so back to the slides. So what's next on our roadmap? So the things we're really interested in at the moment is providing more immersive editing. So imagine instead of switching between different collection views and data views, if you could do a lot more on Cloud Canon all in line. We want to have tighter integration with Jekyll so that we just provide better error messages like Ben Boulder was talking about before, and just keeping up with the Jekyll roadmap in general. And we want to provide better workflows for teams. We've seen a number of enterprises and government agencies like doing things with Jekyll, and there's usually multiple people involved creating these websites. And GitHub already does a really good job of building software as a team together. So we're really interested in how we can make the workflows with Cloud Canon better for teams as well. So that's it from me. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. We have a free plan on Cloud Canon. So if you're interested in giving this a go, and you have it at a GitHub Pages website, just connect it up, try it out, and we'd really love to hear what you think. Yeah, so thanks for listening to my talk. Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Mike. I've got a few questions here, which I think we can continue talking about. I know that you and George, the CTO of Cloud Canon, have done a lot of thinking about how to build a CMS for Jekyll before you even wrote a line of code. I mean, would you mind walking us through some of those important decisions that you made about how to approach, because you're not only dealing with Jekyll, you're sort of like dealing with Jekyll at a higher level to look down on it. And so what decisions were made around that, and sort of what implication that has for how the CMS works?
Yeah, so when we started Cloud Canon, we had a few philosophies. Like, one, we didn't want web designers to have to learn a whole lot of APIs to be able to build a website. And so we started off with static websites, and we built a CMS around static websites because and we had the editable class as well. And because it's a static website, if a web designer understands HTML and CSS and JavaScript, they can immediately use the CMS. And we found that was great from that philosophy, but it was just too limiting. Like, what if you want to do more complex things with the website? Like, suddenly you're really restricted in what you can do. And so that's when we got really interested in Jekyll, because Jekyll, I mean, there is some things to learn, but it's just a small step up from static HTML. And it just improves what the possibilities of what you can do with a static website. So that's coming from the developer's point of view, from the client, like non-technical point of view. We do a lot of usability testing. Like, we just want people to be able to put the interface in front of someone and for them to understand how it's working and just be able to update everything without learning too much. Yeah, so those are our two sort of driving principles.
What is, I mean, obviously it's still in public beta, our latest release of the CMS for Jekyll. What does a full release look like, and how far away maybe are we from that?
Yeah, well, as Tom mentioned, like there's so many things that you can do in this space, and I think it's a really exciting time to be in web. I'm also really interested in VR as well, and I don't know how that's going to play out on the web, but it's just really interesting, the evolution of static websites in general, and it does feel like there's a massive trend towards it at the moment. And everything's fairly new. Like now we have a lot of services that you can just drop into static websites, whereas 10 years ago you didn't have that. So I guess that was one of the driving forces between more like sort of back-end database systems. So I think we're still at fairly like it's still fairly new, this whole static trend. But yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. I don't know. We're gonna find out a lot over the coming years, I think.
Cool. I mean, you talked about how, or basically like what your interpretation of typical Jekyll user and Jekyll project is. And I know in some of the research that I've been part of for Cloud Canon, we've sort of discovered that developers like to use tools like Jekyll in personal projects first, and then smaller professional projects. But I know we've also done a little bit of custom dev for some larger clients. Do you mind talking about what some of those other like more enterprisey grade use cases have involved in terms of tooling?
Yeah, so let me think. So especially in Silicon Valley, developers get paid so much. So if you have a solution that that you can build what should be a fairly simple website in a weekend instead of a week, then that's huge for an enterprise. Like it's going to save a lot of money, especially, and you also get all the other advantages of static websites. Like it's not only the development, but what happens when you start to scale that website? You're gonna, if it's a database-backed CMS, you're gonna need to worry about load balances. You're gonna have to put a cache in front of it. You're gonna have to scale the database, which is like an inherently tricky thing to do. Whereas if it's a static website, you can just put it on S3 and let them deal with it. So it just saves a lot of time in a lot of areas and just makes everything a lot simpler. So yeah, I think we are seeing a bit of interest from enterprise at the moment.
Cool. There's a question here from the Twitter stream from Ben Gundy Shepherd, which I think you might have covered in the presentation, but just to clarify, how are we handling data and content that's populated by YAML via the data directory?
Yeah, so it's handled a similar way to the CSV. I can't actually remember if we have an interface for it yet. If we don't, we're going to build one soon. But it'll be an interface that's similar to the front matter editor.
Awesome. We don't have any other questions lined up on Twitter at the moment. So if you've got I'd like to hand over to you for final closing comments. And then we'll take a short break before we bring on our next speaker.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this. Like this was just sort of an idea at the start of the year, and it's just really weird to people, like having people tweet, "Oh, I'm going to JekyllConf." Like it's a real thing now. So yeah, this has been a really awesome day. I've loved it. So cheers for being a part of it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mike.